Hello Red Zoners, Aaron Elbin here, counting down the top 5 Hour of Devastation cards for Standard, but before we begin, hit that subscribe button. So we're taking turns starting with my number 5, the Scarab God. So 3 blue black for a 5/5 legendary god creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. 2 blue black, exile target creature card from a graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie that's essentially eternalizing it. And when the Scarab God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So I think this is gonna make some impact in Standard because it's gonna be one of the best finishers for the blue-black control deck or any color combination that has blue-black in it. And with the abundance of red decks now and the zombie decks kind of making a comeback, I think a blue-black version of the zombie deck is gonna pop up anytime soon as well.
Yeah, actually, there is a version of the zombie deck which has a splash of blue to include the Scarab God as one of its 5 to cast spells instead of, or in addition to Liliana's Mastery. My number 5 is very close to yours. It's the Locust God, a 4 red blue legendary creature god with flying. Whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. And for 2 blue and red, draw a card, then discard a card. And it has the same ability as the other gods where when they die, you return to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And this is 4/4. I think that this will be really good in the red-blue control decks that are coming out. Usually when red is going crazy, a few more control decks will try to come in, and this is one way to really close out those types of games.
Okay, well, the reason I didn't put that in my list is that the blue-black decks, the blue-black control decks are becoming slightly, if not a lot better than blue-red compared to last set because of a lot of additional removal, etc. So yeah, I mean it's close, but I still think that this one becomes a better finisher. But yeah, still a good card.
Yep.
My number 4 on the other hand, which also works in your control decks, is Champion of Wits. 2 in the blue for a 2/1 Naga Wizard. When Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. So pay 3 mana, play a 2/1, draw 2 and discard 2, but it comes with internalize 5 blue, so that's 7. So then you're gonna be playing it as a 4/4, drawing you 4 cards and discarding 2. So the first time you play it, it's not really gonna do much. It just filters, maybe lets you throw the lands or the spells that you don't need for a control deck. But yeah, the Eternalize is an uncounterable thing, so it's gonna be a necessity against the control mirror. And you know, if it's down to like the mid to late game where control players kind of run out of solutions to what the opponents are playing, this nets you an additional 2 cards and also lets you swap your 2 worst cards for whatever you drew among the 4.
The Naga is really, really strong, and it allows a lot of different types of decks, from reanimator decks to just a good way to beat the mirror. It's a really, really good card. For my number 4 though, I went with a card really made to end games. Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh, which is a Bolas Planeswalker for 4 blue, red, and black. And it has 4 abilities. For +2, you target an opponent, exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. And then until the end of turn, you may play that card without paying its casting cost. +2, each opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. For -4, Nicol Bolas deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. For -12, exile all non-land permanents your opponent controls. For the Grixis control decks, this is a game ender. You just play it, it's over. It gives you wins out of nowhere if the opponent's down to 7 life. It allows you to use the best spells that they have against them. Removes their options by removing the cards from their hand. You don't even need to get to the ulti. It's just a really, really strong game ender.
Yeah, I mean, can't wait until we get the Grixis control decks. Unfortunately, now we don't have them yet. But for sure, once those decks come out, it's impossible that they won't play even at least 1 copy of this card. Yeah, it costs a lot though, so maybe 1 or 2 max. But yeah, it's gonna be there definitely. And so we now go to my number 3, which is Abrade. 1 in a red, choose 1. Abrade deals 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. So obviously, this card is gonna be great because it's gonna be the instant 3 damage removal in the set. Unfortunately, it doesn't deal damage to the player, which is fine because it also allows you to destroy target artifact when you need it. The versatility and the utility that it provides is just something that we really cannot ignore.
Yeah, I agree, but I actually have a braid a bit later on in my list. But speaking of flexibility and versatility, my number 3 is Supreme Will, which is an instant for 2 and a blue. It's actually in the same cycle as a braid, where it gives you options on what you want to do. It's either you counter target spell unless the controller pays 3, or you look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This just gives blue so much flexibility. Beginning of the game, end of the game, still does so much.
Yeah, I was actually not sure which one I like more between Abrade and Supreme Will. I do also have it on my list, and I was flip-flopping on which is which. But the reason I had Supreme Will higher on the list is because it's something that you will play around. I mean, Abrade is gonna be there once you see red, but there's really nothing you can do. You still play your creatures, you still play your artifacts. In a blue deck, Supreme Will is gonna be around, and you're gonna be adjusting how you're playing because it's around, and that's why I put it higher on my list. And we'll probably talk more about it when we get to it. So we now go to my number 2, which is Hour of Devastation. I mean, the fact that the set is named after it just says that much. 3 red, all creatures lose indestructible until end of turn, and Hour of Devastation deals 5 damage to each creature and each non-bolus planeswalker. So the reason I think that this is really good is because it's gonna be the premier or one of the premier sweepers in the sets. Once they see that you're playing red and you're kind of with the controlly side, and even if you're not, people are gonna think twice about just putting down all their creatures because they know that they can sweep. And the best part of this is that it doesn't only sweep the creatures, it also damages planeswalkers. So it's a whole new level of sweepers.
My number 2 is also Hour of Devastation. So just continuing your thoughts, the fact that this is a planeswalker killer, because 5 damage to a planeswalker essentially kills most planeswalkers. And the beauty here is it fits perfectly in a Grixis deck. If you have Nicol Bolas in a Grixis deck, Hour of Devastation won't hurt him at all. So it's perfect. Just kill all of those pesky creatures, and even Selfless Spirit doesn't really do anything about this spell.
And so we go to my number 1, which was your number 3, which is Supreme Will. You read what it does. I wasn't sure which was higher between this and Abrade, and Hour of Devastation was also on the top. The only reason I went with Supreme Will and Hour of Devastation is because, like what I said, you're always gonna play around these cards. Abrade is a really strong card, and you're really always gonna put it in your red deck. But again, if you're playing against it, you don't really care. You just play everything and hope he doesn't have it. Versus these 2 cards, you're always gonna be thinking if you're gonna be playing your cards because he has 3 mana up, and you can't pay the 3 mana that Supreme will ask you, and you can't pay all your creatures because he can't possibly board wipe in Hour of Devastation. So it's just the fact that it's gonna change how you play the game.
Yeah, I agree. In that sense, it is a really powerful card, forcing your opponent to, even if you don't have it in your hand, you force your opponent to second guess themselves, and just that edge really would help you win games. But for my number 1 is actually your number 3. We switched our number 3s and number 1s. Mine was Abrade, and the reason why I picked Abrade as my number 1 is currently every deck that's any deck has artifacts to destroy and creatures that are usually 3 toughness or less. And Abrade slots in perfectly. It's your answer to vehicles, it's your answer to weenie creatures, it's your answer to gear hulks, it's your answer to combo pieces. For just 2 mana, it just does so much. And for how important artifacts, well, essentially the gear hulks and creatures, how fast creatures are in this current standard environment, I picked the Braid as my number 1.
Yeah, it actually depends on, I guess, on the criteria you're looking at. If we're looking at how often you're gonna see a card and how commonly people will use it, then yeah, a Braid will definitely be the more common one. But if you're looking at how it will impact your decisions, then it's gonna be Supreme Will. So we didn't really set rules on how we're picking the top 5.
Yep,
Then that's why it varies. But you know, yeah, like I said,
but
it
you'll
depends on
notice
how
that
you
the
look at
top
it.
3 cards are all the same
Yeah.
for us.
So tell us what you think of our list.
What your top 5 cards are,
What other top 5 lists you want to see?
and we'll see you in the next video.